Okay, we're going to start a basic Logic session here by creating an instrument track. We're going to set the tempo to 40. We're going to insert a test oscillator on that track and insert a EQ plugin after that test oscillator. When you do this, the test oscillator will start making noise and going whoo at you. You want to go ahead and you might want to mute your computer or be ready to turn it down. And you probably will want to put your headphones on for this. So I'm going to create a track. Oh, make sure it's a software instrument track. Probably, let me go ahead and write that in there to make sure we got that. I guess it did say instrument track, but just to be sure. To change the instrument on a track, we haven't done this yet. Today's our first day. We have to open the inspector window. Does anyone remember how to open the inspector window? I, which is a modulated note. Go ahead and close the silly drawer there. We'll open that inspector window, click on the track that you've got, right? And if you look over here now on this track, this is called the channel strip. Okay, and this is inspecting this track that we have selected right here. And the channel strip has two things on it. It has the track that we're looking at plus the master track for the whole session. Okay, so if we wanted to turn down the whole session, we'd grab that track and it would turn all the tracks down. Now we only have one track going, so it's not as big of a deal right now. Okay. So over on that master track, you see this thing called ePiano, which unfortunately is not at the top of the channel strip. Normally a channel strip would work in such a way that the input would be at the top, and then the things you would put on it, that sound afterwards would be after it. Logic has decided to be somewhat questionably logical about that and put the input after the plugins, even though the plugins come after the input. So you'll see that it's down a little bit lower. You always want to think of this as your input. If you click on this little triangle next to it right here, it will allow you to select the input. And the input in this case is going to be our synthesizer. So I want you to go down and we're going to find a synthesizer called Retro Synth. And mine is showing up in recent, but I believe it's right down here, Retro Synth Stereo. We're going to open that guy right there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, ePiano, right there. There you go. Like I said, it's illogical. It's not at the top. Your brain wants to go to the top because that's where it should be, actually. Okay. So I'm going to insert that retro synth right here. Create that. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert a test oscillator on the channel strip. Well, what does that mean? I come back to this channel strip, and I go click. I need a computer with more real estate on the screen. This is unfortunate. Yeah, sorry, gang. It's this is unfortunate. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, it's down below it. Okay, never mind. Sorry, it's right here. My bad. So below Retro Synth, these things here are called plugins. Okay, and these plugins do things to the signal that's coming from Retro Synth. Okay, usually there's some sort of equalizer or some sort of compression. Sometimes you put on some reverb and delay. We're going to get into all that stuff in a couple weeks. Right now, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and remove or change, actually it's already set up for us. We're going to change this compressor plugin, this first one right here, by clicking on this little triangle to the right. And instead of picking compressor, we're going to go down and we're going to pick from utility, test oscillator, and you can put a stereo one on. When you do this, you will hear that. There it is, 1K. Okay, go ahead and do that. You should hear that sound. And you might want to mute your computer for a second. Okay. We have a test oscillator going right now. I want to leave this window open I'm going to move this test oscillator up here. And then if you look right here, you see this channel EQ. I'm going to double click on that. I'm not going to click the triangles because we actually want that channel EQ. I'm going to double click on it. And when that opens, I can see the equalizer. And the equalizer should be showing a waveform coming through right about 1K. So I'd like everyone's windows to look like that. And if you could put your flags up when you're there, we will pause.
I don't have any filters underneath RetroSynth.
Okay.
There's nothing in here.
We're going to change the frequency of the waveform generator, right here. We're going to change the frequency of it. This is the oscillator section, right? If we change that frequency, we hear it changing pitch, and we also see it changing on the EQ. Right? And we can hear what that sounds like. And then we can set it to square wave, and we can see those overtones come in, right? Change the overtones. And lots of overtones there. Okay. And then we can turn on this high cut filter right here on the right, top right. We can click the high cut filter, and we can start to manipulate it by grabbing the little circle and dragging it around. We should be able to hear those changes. And if I drag it all the way down here, it sounds like a sine wave again. Hear that? I don't hear any of the overtones. Okay, so step one is we're going to turn off the test oscillator by pressing the power button right here, which you can't see. We're going to go into the EQ. We double click in the center of the channel strip there to see the filter, and we're going to click the filter and turn that off. I'm going to go ahead and close the EQ again, just so I don't have to look at it. Okay. I'm going to create a half bar region on the track, and I'm going to loop that half bar, which means I have to zoom in. Put my loop as half a bar. What key do I hold down to get this pencil? Command, jink. Drew a region. I've never been able to do that before. Shorten that to half a bar. And then I'm going to insert E2, A2, B2, A2, D3, C3, D3, E3 as 16th notes right in a row. Okay, so I'm going to double click this region. I'm going to hold down that command key to create the pencil key and create some notes. I want to start with E2. So I'm going to go to C2 here. And I'm going to go up from that, C, D, E2. I go E2. Wow, it created a really short note for me. I've never done that before. I know that that's because I'm zoomed way out. I have to zoom in to get to the 16ths. My tick marks are 16ths here, so I'm going to go one note for each tick mark, right? No, my tick marks are 8th notes there. Is that right? No, those are 16ths. Now I'm confused. Quarter. My region seems to be changing. It looks like the region is changing depending on the notes that are in it. That was kind of frustrating, changing the length of the region. And set my tempo to 140. Set my loop to something very exciting like that. Okay, so I'll pull that up here, and when you get to that point, please put your flags up. Okay, we're going to open the RetroSynth plugin. Does anyone remember how we open the plugin? What do? Double click in the middle. RetroSynth plugin. I'm going to hit play. I'm going to start my sound playing back. That doesn't sound quite right, but I guess it is right. I'm going to now start changing the patches. The patches are up here. You click on this, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. You'll see leads, pads, bass, accompaniment. I'd like you to noodle through a few of those and just listen to what happens. A different one. to bass. And then once you found one you kind of like, I want you to stay on it. You can leave it open, and then you can open the channel EQ again. And open that channel EQ. I'm going to turn on that filter in the top right, and I'm going to start filtering it. And see if you can get to that point again where you've got, let me pick something besides this one. Here we go. Where you've got the retro synth playing back from your MIDI, and you've got a filter on it put on by the EQ. Let's see if you can get to that point, and we'll take a pause there. Just put your flags down when you're there. Okay, so step one, we're going to set up the oscillator, is going to go into the synth leads, and we're going to pick, I would like you guys all to pick this patch called Bright Cycle Patch, which is right here under Synth Leads. Synth Leads, Bright Cycle Patch. And the reason I want you to pick that one is it gets rid of a bunch of other stuff that's going on. And then we're going to turn off the filter, effects, and glide section right here. See these little power buttons? Filter, effects, glide. And in the oscillator section, we're going to set the mix to oscillator 1 and set the shape modulation to 0. What is that? Let me show you that real quick. We set the mix all the way up here to 1. And the shape modulation right here, we're going to double click that and set that to 0. Okay. Actually, let's go ahead and set the vibrato to 0 too. I'll type that in. Set the vibrato to 0. Let's set the sense to 0. We'll set everything to 0. And I'm doing that by just double clicking on these. Often another thing you can do is you can hold down the option key and click on the wheel. It'll reset it to the center. So it should look something like this right here. And now when I hit play, the only thing that'll be changing is the waveform. There's no filtering. Here it sounds a little different than what I was just playing, right? This is a very pure waveform right here. See if you can do that and change your waveform right here in your oscillator. And when you've got that, will you put your flags up? We'll go flags up when you're kind of satisfied and know what you're doing. Okay, so just to review, we're going to manipulate the envelope by adjusting the attack, decay, sustain, and release values in the amplifier section, which is right here. Okay, and whoops, something's not right. Recap, we're going to manipulate the envelope, which is going to adjust the amplifier, right? So we're going to look at this amplifier envelope right here, and by dragging around the attack, release, sustain, and shortening the decay right there, we can change the whole sound, right? So we can go from a very percussive sound. It's a very percussive sound, right? No sustain, no release. Just attack and decays very quickly. I can add some decay to it. Increase the release so it starts to. You wouldn't want that much in a lead instrument very often. A lot of leads blur your lead sound. Most woodwinds can't play more than one note at a time, right? When you switch to the next note, it releases immediately. I can make more of a string sort of sound by having a slow, maybe a little bit of release in there, right? It starts to sound more like a swing or a string. Sorry. And then we're going to set these settings to right here. So if you double click on these, right, I can type in 0.4, I can type in 1800, I can type in 0.59, and I can type in 0.97. And when you get to that point, go ahead and stop and put your flags down, and then I'll know you're there. So we're going to manipulate the filter a little bit. We're going to set the tempo of our song up to 165 by double clicking up here, typing in 165. We're going to turn on the filter section, or make sure the filter is off in the EQ plugin, right? We talked about that. So make sure our EQ filter is not on right here. And then we're going to turn on the filter section in the synthesizer right here. Okay. And then we're going to set the filter modulation settings all to 0, which are all these guys across the bottom. We're just going to option click on those, and those all go to 0. And then we're going to hit play, and we're going to mess around with our filter here. It's very cool, isn't it? So, and then I'll go ahead and pause that, and we're going to set the cutoff filter to about 0.37, somewhere in there, somewhere in that area when we're done. So I'm going to go to the filter section, make sure it's on, and right here, this LFO, I'm going to set it to 0.5, okay? And we're going to keep the envelope at 0, which it is, okay? And then we're going to go down to this modulation section, and what we've just said is, you know what? The LFO will affect the placement of my filter. It's going to sweep my filter up and down. Now, unfortunately, this software doesn't show it. You'll hear it, though. What it should be showing would be this. This would be moving back and forth. Okay? And so then we'll go down and we'll go to the LFO right here. Okay? And we're going to pull this. This is a tricky thing on this particular synthesizer. You have to pull this slider all the way down. Okay? The reason that slider's there is if you had a wheel on your synthesizer and you adjusted it, the wheel would control it, but we don't have a wheel, so we don't want the wheel to have any effect on it. We want to control it manually, so we're going to drag that all the way down. Okay? Okay. Then we're going to set the LFO rate. We're going to have the sync off. Did I not put that off? I'm sorry, I need to add that real quick. We're going to set the sync to off, and we're going to set the LFO rate right here. Now, this is a little clunky. Sometimes you try to grab this thing, and it won't let you. You kind of have to go over here, highlight the numbers first, and then move over and grab it real quick. I'm going to move it over to 0.27. And 0.30, somewhere in there. Or you could double click on this and type that in. Slightly clunky.
0.27?
Yep, 0.27. Okay. Then I'm going to play back my song. Today. Oh, there we go. Freaking me out. And I can hear it coming up and down by itself. Okay. So this is actually sweeping it up and down every quarter of a second. Or no, every 4 seconds, sorry. Going up and down every 4 seconds on its own. You can't see it. I wish it would show it. We can open the channel strip here and watch it. You can see the frequencies being filtered here. Here it comes. Maybe I shouldn't have picked 0.27. There it comes. It's a very slow wave, right? It's almost like if you saw this would be a tidal wave in the ocean, right? That's the low frequency oscillator. It is moving up my frequencies by itself. Back down. I don't know why that's such a spooky sound. Okay, see if you can do that. Here's the other thing you can do now. I can increase that rate. Sorry. So if I want this to go faster, I have to come hide over here. That'll go down faster. Right? If I want it to not go up and down as far, I turn down the LFO here, and it won't go up and down as far. So I think a rate of about 1 is maybe better. Then I can really increase it. Watch what happens here. Now it's going up and down really fast. This thing right here, if I could see it, would be going back and forth. Okay. Let's make it really ridiculous and just I got you. Sounds like it has indigestion or something, right? Then you can also control where it starts. If I want it to be up higher, I can have it up here. So for the filter envelope, we're going to come over here and we're going to set that low frequency oscillator to 0. And then we're going to set the envelope to 0.5. Now we're saying manipulate this based on this, not this filter envelope. And you see that this envelope looks just like any other envelope. Attack, decay, sustain, release. And this means at the highest point here, the frequency will be as high as possible. And at this point, it'll be all the way closed, and this point all the way closed. How fast, how long does it take that note to go from not having many overtones to having all the overtones, or many of the overtones? If I leave that right there, each note is taking a second before it opens up. See that? If I want it to be right at the beginning, now, right at the beginning, the frequency envelope is way up here, but it closes down very quickly. I wish I could show you this thing moving up like this with each note. And each note's hitting, that thing's popping up just for a split second at the beginning. Now it's staying open a little longer. Okay? Now it's staying open for a long time. I can turn the envelope down, it won't go as far. This is my set point. Now it's doing it up higher. Give it a shot. See what you can do.